Mr. Dickman on any correspondence that we have. I will be copying him on all city correspondence so he can start to get traction with all of your issues in play. So anything from any city employees or anything from you, from the clerk, we would like Mr. Dickman copied on that. We'll make sure that there is a smooth transition. One of the things you should think about is what role you want him to have with regard to the city manager selection process, whether you would like him to be here to hear all of the discussion about the role of the city manager. I know I have, as county attorney, been involved in the selection process vis-a-vis this county manager, and I think it was kind of expected by the consultant. So you may want to think about how you want him to interact in that process. So it's just food for thought for you. I also sent you a court order that we received today from the 2nd District Court of Appeals, and it was in the Chmielewski Public Records case relating to the shade meeting transcript. And you may recall, or you may not, that there were 6 shade meeting transcripts in front of Judge Pam Campbell. And our argument was in those cases that the litigation was continuing, that it was not concluded for the purposes of the Public Records Act. She ruled on all 6 of those that we were correct. One of those cases was taken on appeal to the 2nd District Court of Appeals, and it has been reversed. So we now have 15 days plus 5 days for mailing. You have a copy of the court order in your email from me, and we have to make a decision as to whether we want a motion for rehearing, a motion for clarification, or a motion for certification for a further appeal to the Supreme Court of Florida. So we'll be analyzing those issues. I'll be talking to Mr. Dickman, too, about what role he may want to play in that, or whether or not we want to just turn the transcript over. The complicating factor in that is that some of those communications in the 2006 case are also relevant in the federal case, which is the 2009 case, which relates to the inverse condemnation case. So I did call the attorney who is representing you in that matter. We had a conversation today about that. He does have a copy of the opinion so far, and we're going to have further discussion about what position he would like the city to take, and we will advise you of that as well. So
because he will have an opinion based on the impact.
He will make the decision as to what will happen, but he may say your insurance company has a preference as to what course of action that you should take, or they may not have a preference. But, you know, this is the public records case. The big case is whether or not you took Mr. Chmielewski's property rights. That's the one the insurance company has. So that interplay is going on. We'll be making a recommendation to you. There are attorney's fees that go with the successful prosecution of a public records case. So at the trial court level, you won on 5 out of 6. I don't expect there's going to be a lot of attorney's fees awarded by Judge Campbell, but on the appeal of the one case that they took up, you would be responsible for Mr. Chmielewski's attorney's fees. So we'll be going forward on that basis. We did discuss this issue in shade meetings with the previous city commission, and that was the recommendation and you know, the instructions that we were given, and we did go forward on that basis. So
do we know how much those attorneys?
We do not. There will be a motion for the attorney's fees, which will set forth how much those are, and we'll see what happens. The only case that I can tell you that I personally was involved in the attorney's fees was the NCAA sued Florida State University over some NCAA records, and Florida State University took the position that they were exempt from the public records law. The NCAA sued Florida State. They did go all the way to the Supreme Court, and on the appeal of that case, I think the attorney's fees that were awarded by the Supreme Court were approximately $3,500. This case, I'm confident they'll be asking for more, but I don't really have a feel for what this court, which is the 2nd District Court of Appeals, will order. So I will continue to keep you advised of the progress of it and what our recommendation is.
How many days before we have to make a decision?
You have 20 days, 15 days plus 5 days for mailing.
So will we have a shade meeting?
We can
To
have a shade
discuss this,
meeting.
or-
I don't know, I haven't, formed enough of an opinion as to whether we need to have one. So,
it
Because
just
you're going to talk to the,
came
why
to-
is the insurance company handling the federal case?
because it's covered by your insurance your insurance policy, which the public records case is not.
And so you'll get their opinion, you'll talk to Mr. Dickman and get his opinion, and then you'll come to us at the next
I'm going to come
meeting?
forward with a recommendation for you.
By
And it may
email?
be that the best course of action is simply to produce the transcript. The court order, which I sent you, has the appellate court ordering the case back to Judge Campbell for her to enter an order ordering you to produce the transcript. So that's the next step.
And then she has to
She does have to do it.
do it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, she doesn't have a choice.
right.
So so by not challenging it, we're basically going to be paying some attorney fees?
Correct, if that's the course that you take. But I think we need to advise you on what the course is. I think we need to hear from your insurance carrier, and we'll give you advice as to how to go forward.
And how are we getting that advice?
We'll be getting it, it depends on what the advice is. If we need to have a conversation about options, because there are viable options, then we'll set a shade meeting. We'll have Mr. Dickman join us. If we don't need to do that, then I'll probably send you an email and have a presentation at your next meeting and a recommendation for you. Mr. Davis was the attorney of record, actually, in the underlying case. I want to talk to him about it as well. He'll be sitting with you at your next meeting, and he has all of the background with regard to the Chmielewski matter, because really, for the most part, in the earlier years, he was the one that attended the mediation, and he was your city attorney during the pendency of all of that litigation.
And we can't get a copy of the transcript until Judge Campbell.
No, actually, I have a copy of the transcript, which I brought tonight.
Okay.
It is technically under seal at this point.
Okay,
So I can give it to the clerk, your clerk, for her to keep under seal. You have the right to read it,
okay,
but it is not something that's available to the public. It's also complicated by the fact that the Commission on Ethics has ruled that it falls within the disclosure of information generally not known to the public. So it can technically be a Commission on Ethics violation for you to talk about it to anybody. You can't talk to each other, obviously. You can talk to me, you can talk to Elaine, but you can't talk to anybody outside of the city who doesn't have the right to read the transcript, which makes it complicated. So, but I do have the transcript. I could leave it this evening with your clerk. That was our normal course of dealing with the Board of County Commissioners, was to leave one copy of confidential information, either in the chairman's office or in the clerk's office, for each county commissioner to read, should they choose to do so.
so after tomorrow, any of us could go in there and sit and read?
Yes, she'll have it tonight.
Okay,
And I'm assuming when you come back to us on that, you'll be able to explain to us what the ramifications are of this being open. I mean, if we just
Correct.
release it,
And
and
really,
not knowing the content,
To a
I have
certain
no idea what
extent, I think you're going to be able to read it and say, how do I feel about it?
Okay.
And so you may have your own feelings about it.
okay.
Thank you.
And that's everything I have.
Okay. City Commissioner reports. We'll start with Commissioner Fletcher.
Okay.